Hi, Jack Willard here. The title of our short video, Inside Bob Joyce's Church, a Must Hear. This is certainly one of the best accounts I've had of a visit to Household of Faith in Benton, Arkansas, so don't tune out. Watch the whole thing. Before we get started, just want to say that they have officially closed on the property, 9 acres of land in Arkansas, about 10 minutes from the current church. We know there's a big barn on the property, and they're going to work on renovating that so they can hold services there and accommodate more people. By the pastor's own account, Gene Ho as well, sometimes there are as many as 13 countries or more represented. And of course, there are those from various states around America. So there's a real space problem, and they're going to correct it. The Lord has moved, and they are going to answer the call. I am, as I talk to you right now, scheduled to tape a show with Gene Ho, the George Magazine show. They have 2 of them. I am scheduled to tape a show. Hopefully the technical end will work okay, and I'll let you know when that's done and when you'll be able to see it. Let's look at that email now. Anonymous. I just in the last few months have done a deep dive into your previous broadcast regarding Pastor Bob Joyce and Household of Faith Church. Very thoughtful, provoking, very interesting. I started listening to Elvis when I was 5 years old, 64 years ago. His voice is ingrained in my brain, as are the images of his walk, his gestures, etc. You can imagine I've seen lots of Elvis impersonators, and that is just what they are. None could ever capture the essence of the real Elvis. The only one who even came close was Dean Z. He performs worldwide, but his home base is actually Branson, Missouri. His show is phenomenal. That being said, he could never get it just right. My husband has made fun of me for almost a year because I maintain that Elvis could have faked his death. Speculation on my part, and he could have returned as Pastor Bob Joyce. His biggest argument was the fact that Elvis was born in 1935 and could not move as well, sing as well, or preach as well as Pastor Joyce. Because he got tired of me saying that I wanted to visit Household of Faith, he took me. I'm sure he thought I would get it out of my system or find that there was nothing to this so-called conspiracy theory. We arrived in Benton, Arkansas on Saturday evening. That's how I would do it, around 5. I suggested we find the church so that we would have no problem getting there the following morning. It was a tiny little building and has a second building next to it for the overflow crowd. The parking lot holds about 20 cars. As we pulled into the parking lot, there were 5 or 6 cars there. Some had men standing next to them. They were intently checking us out as we slowly drove into the lot. My husband turned to drive out of the parking lot when suddenly, from inside the sanctuary, came Pastor Bob Joyce. Without exaggeration, I will tell you I got chills when I saw him. Everything from his gait, the way he held his arms when walking, his fingers and his cheekbones just screamed Elvis. The hair was snowy white. I just said, "That's him." My husband, the skeptic, laughed at me, but I was adamant. The church service is scheduled to start at 10 a.m. each Sunday, with the doors opening at 9 a.m. Knowing the sanctuary was tiny, I told my husband I wanted to be there by 8:30. When we arrived just before 8:30 a.m., the doors were already open, and the church already had quite a few people inside. We found seats on the fourth row center aisle and had a good view of the piano and pulpit. Everyone, visitors and church members alike, were friendly and made us feel like we were more than welcome to be there. Since it was an hour and a half till the service was to start, we had plenty of time to meet folks and visit. One thing I noticed, no one mentioned the name Elvis. However, it was obvious why so many were there. On the Sunday we visited, here comes that number again, there were 13 states represented. I'm not sure how many countries. I spoke to one gentleman who had visited 65 times. Everyone who mentioned Pastor Joyce loved him and had only kind things to say about him. They spoke of him, how he had helped them in their walk with the Lord. In the tiny foyer to the left of the door sits a table. It has a stack of 5x7 photos of Pastor Joyce looking handsome in a white jacket. They are free and people are encouraged to take one. They also have a table where they sell his CDs. Of course, I bought 3 CDs and took one of the photos. Around 9 a.m. the pastor arrived. He is taller than he looks in the videos, maybe 6 foot tall or 6'1", more slender than I expected. He has lost weight lately. He made his way through the church and took the time to meet every person, chat, and shake their hand. I didn't know he was behind me when I saw a man's hand extended in front of me. I looked up, and as I took his hand, he smiled at me and welcomed me to the church. He talked with my husband and myself for a few minutes before he moved on to the next person. I have to tell you, I would have known that voice, that speaking voice, anywhere. As familiar to me as a family member's. When he smiled, I could see the cheekbones and sort of a half smile even with a beard. From mid-face up, it was very much like Elvis, the Elvis we all know, only much older. His skin looks the age of an older gentleman, and the lines around his eyes are deep. After greeting everyone, he walked back into the foyer to speak to those who were just arriving and to those who were late and would be sitting in the overflow building. My husband had to go back out to the car for something and didn't come back for a while. He actually had been in the foyer talking with the pastor. The light bulb was coming on. The music and the sermon were awesome. The man is a great preacher and knows the Bible. He exudes love and gentleness. After the service, they made an announcement to anyone wanting to meet Pastor to get in line. He was signing the CDs and photos people have gotten in the foyer. He also posed for pictures with each of us individually. I found that strange. What regular little country preacher does that? Food for thought. He came down to my husband and I so we could take our photos, and he was laughing and joking with us, very relaxed and personable. It was like being with an old friend. Oh, and I was sitting in the same row as his wife, Walina. I did get to see her from about 3 feet, and I have to say she looks just like the girl in the pictures taken with Elvis in Germany, just an older version. Very distinct facial features. I don't see how it could have not been the same person. I got the feeling that the congregation was very protective of their pastor. Before the service, they made announcements that there were fake social media accounts claiming he was someone other than himself, and in a roundabout way let everyone know that they didn't want to talk about it. To my knowledge, no one did until we were all walking out of the building. A woman who was sitting next to my husband looked at me and said, "It's him." She lived just a couple of miles from the church but had never visited there before that day. She told us that she had seen things on the internet and had come out of curiosity and now was convinced. After our visit, my husband turned to me and said it had to be Elvis. He said there is no way it couldn't be. You could have knocked me over with a feather. I thought that was an outstanding story about the visit to Household of Faith. I get many others, and I always love hearing your stories. My personal email, jackthefairguy, F-A-I-R, jackthefairguy @gmail.com. We're doing this in 2024, a very special year in the Bob Joyce story. As I speak to you now in June of 2024, we've got a great CD coming out from Pastor Bob Joyce, Safely Home. Perhaps not till August when George Magazine has their big event, 2-day event in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Pastor Bob Joyce will bring his Sunday service from Household of Faith to Hot Springs, the Rainier Hall Theater, Sunday. Doors open about 9 a.m. It's a pretty big theater, but get there early. Get there early. Saturday, there's a whole bunch of speakers and there's music. You can go to georgemagazine.com and find out about it. Register. Saturday is a paid event. Maybe there's a few VIP tickets left, which include a dinner. Some of my listeners are going to that VIP dinner. Sounds exciting. Thank you for watching. My name is Jack Willard.